Hello and welcome back to Umineko. When last we left off, Natsuhi had been hiding in a closet and incriminating herself. All of the pieces from the game board were gathered. All of the humans, furniture, witches, and the witches on an even higher level had gathered in one place. That place was like a solemn cathedral with an unbelievably high ceiling. White stonework, golden ornaments. Though there were windows, there were no entrances or exits. It was a strange, strange place. But for some reason, no one wondered where this strange place was. Because they were not given the right to think of this place as strange. The pieces, have they all been gathered? Yes, they have. Well done. What a show. I wonder just how many people there are here. No matter how many we see, every being outside the 18 is a phantom. Making you acknowledge them is what my game's all about. The three witches were seated on special thrones set upon a very high balcony. In the center sat the game master Lambda Delta, and on either side of the semicircular balcony sat Bern Castell and Beatrice facing each other. Below them, Erica ran forward, lifted the corners of her skirt and bowed respectfully. Great Lady Lambda Delta, we thank you for granting our request for an assembly. And Great Lady Bern Castell, my master, please look forward to it. Though it may be only for a short while, I will most certainly make my master forget about the poison that torments her. Yes, I am looking forward to it. I'd expect no less from my double. My piece. Erica and Bern Castell exchanged cruel smiles that'd make anyone want to avert their gaze. Listen up, witches and humans. I hereby announce that with this assembly of witches gathered, the Court of Illusions will now begin. The commander of the game spoke with words of power. Though her words were spoken with within such a vast space, they rang out with the force of a bell in a bell tower. Your lives and roles as they correspond to this game are over. The fifth game is now closed, and the midnight answer session shall begin. Well, I'd like to get it started quickly, but why don't we have everyone quickly introduce themselves first? After all, there are so many people here. I am Lambda Delta, the Witch of Certainty and the new commander of this game. Bern Castell, Witch of Miracles. My goal is to penetrate Beatrice's illusion of the witch. I am the Endless Witch, Beatrice. My goals are to claim my own existence and to protect Natsuhi and Kinzo. Battler-sama, you come next in rank. I'm assuring me a battler. I'm fighting against Beatos. No, against the witches. That's all. As I believe you know, you joined in on this game partway through. At the time this assembly of witches opens, you have yet to participate. Do you understand? I get it. You probably mean I don't have the right to speak for a while, right? Thank you for understanding. Even though Battler held a rank near that of witches, he sat on the foremost of the benches shared with the other relatives, all by himself at one end. He met the gaze of Beato, who was up on the balcony. You might have said you were my arch enemy. Well, you aren't necessarily my only enemy. Let's take this game back. It belongs to us. Yeah. I almost said I was fighting against Beato's illusion of the witch. Since the beginning, Beato has been my only enemy. But right now, Erica and those witches who started toying around with Beato's tail are also my enemies. Who should I fight, and how? Maybe it's a good thing I don't have the right to speak for a while. I'll calm down and coolly watch over everything. I am the detective and the one who called for this assembly of witches, Furudo Erica. I will expose the culprit of the 5th game and stick a charming period on the end of this tale. Erica greeted the witches above her and the humans behind her once again. I'm also looking forward to it. Okay, remaining pieces, introduce yourselves in whatever order. Humans, introduce yourselves, all of you. 145 urged him to introduce himself. Kinzo stood up. I'm Urshuramiya Kinzo. I slipped out of the study window and am hiding somewhere on Rakanjima. Urshuramiya Kraus. Currently, I have been captured and am being confined somewhere. I'm Urshuramiya Ava. I'm alive. I'm Rudolph. And the rest of us are all Urshuramiya's too, so I'll leave off the family name. I'm Rosa. I was killed on the first Twilight. Jessica. I also died on the first Twilight. I'm George. I also died on the first Twilight. Maria. I died, but look, I'm here talking. See? Dying isn't a big deal, right? I'm Urshuramiya Natsuhi. I am alive. Hideyoshi here. I was killed just a short while ago. Kyrie, I'm still alive. Nancho, I am also hanging in there. My name is Genji. I passed away on the first Twilight. I'm Shannon. I'm still alive. I am Kanon. I am also alive. I'm Goda. Pleased to meet you, everyone. I am Kumasawa. Pleased to meet you. Now onto the witches. Everyone, introduce yourselves. Virgilia's group could also be seen. Unlike the floor Beato's group was on, the second floor had a balcony that looked like raised audience seating. And they sat there, looking down as though they were at a theater. My name is Virgilia. I am Beatrice's teacher. I'm Gop. Making corpses disappear is my job. Ronove. I'm in charge of making black tea. I greet you in the name of the 7 Sisters of Purgatory. I served in the murder of Hideyoshi on the second Twilight. The Seven Sisters of Purgatory right here! Let us then have Lady Erica's furniture introduce themselves. Gertrude, I am an Assistant Inquisitor of Heresy. Cornelia, I am an Assistant Inquisitor of Heresy. The two of them could also be seen on the second floor audience seating. They sat apart from Virgilia's group. Then, Dlanor, who was seated between the two, slowly stood up. She had a presence and dignity about her, as though she was overseeing everything from that place. Dlanor A. Knox is my name. I am Lady Erica's primary assistant. Battler, I expect much from you. Please don't disappoint me. Let's just both give it all we've got. Most of the time, there will be no need for Dlanor to step forward. However, when the witch side plays around with ugly word games, I'll need to have Dlanor convict them. A miracle like the one in the study won't happen again. And finally, let us introduce ourselves. We are the Chieste Sisters Imperial Guards, who have been tasked with management of proceedings at this assembly of witches. Hello, everyone. This ends the introductions of all pieces. A total of 38 people are present here. There are 38 characters in the 5th game, but if you added all the pieces from previous games too, it would probably rise even higher. This game, which has so often been likened to chess, now has far more pieces than a chessboard. Very well, then I guess we'll get started. Let the person who called this meeting begin. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Goat. Refill my drink. And some popcorn for me. Yeah, that's right. The one who decided demons ought to eat popcorn while watching a play was you, after all. Yes, I intend to enjoy this. And could I get some black tea and mustard miso? Erica, begin. I'm already starting to get bored. Yes, my master, leave it to me. Order silence. At the sound of her voice, the Chieste Sister Corps straightened up, lifted their right knees, and stamped down hard on the floor with their heels. It became a low, deep rumble in the ground, and all the chatter in the cathedral disappeared instantly, as their eyes and expressions became even more hollow and empty. The room fell back into silence, almost as though they were a collection of wax models. Amidst this heavy silence, there was the sound of footsteps, as Erica walked out into the center, where she could catch everyone's attention. When she signaled with her chin, a goat attendant appeared from behind a pillar and carried a single plain chair out into the front and center of the room. It must have been the defendant's chair. I, Furuda Erica, will make an accusation. The murderer of the 5th game is... Ashuramiya Natsuhi-san. You are the culprit. Erica pointed at Natsuhi and spoke. The Natsuhi wax doll alone shook and regained its expression. It was an expression of panic. Chieste Sisters, Please take the defendant to her chair. Understood. Wait, what are you doing? Let go of me! 45 and 410 both pinned Natsuhi's arms behind her back and led her to the chair in the center. Natsuhi resisted, but the Giaste sisters were surprisingly strong and she couldn't do anything. She turned to the relatives for help, but they just remained silent like wax models. I, Furuta Erika, will now reconstruct why the crime was only possible for Ashurami and Natsuhi. Byato, of course, you'll be challenging this, right? Naturally. I am the Ashuramiya family alchemist Beatrice the Golden. Furuta Erika, I challenge you. I'll take these false accusations you're trying to place on my master and tear them apart. But Beatrice! Fear not, Natsuhi. You are my master, and you are the true head with the one-winged eagle engraved in your heart. Do not fear a crime you have not committed. At those words, Natsuhi jerked back and gulped. Her panic finally disappeared, and she stood up straight. That's true. I am Ashuramiya Natsuhi. I will confront any challenge that would disgrace the Ashuramiya family. How can you try a bluff like that in a situation like this? You really are the bullied kid in every single fragment. So Bern, make your claims. I, Bern Castell, claim that a human Ashuramiya Natsuhi is the culprit of this game. And you too, Byato, okay? I, Beatrice, claim that the culprit in this game is not human. I am the culprit. Bern Castell, who smiled daringly, and Beatrice, who smiled firmly, crossed gazes. Listen, witches and humans. Two claims have appeared for a single truth. Is the culprit a human, Ashuramiya Natsuhi? Is the culprit a witch, Beatrice? If the witch wins, the truth about the fifth game will disappear into darkness. If Erika wins, the illusion of the witch will be wiped from the game board. In other words, for Byato alone, this is a battle that must not be lost. Are you prepared? And what am I supposed to be preparing myself for? This has always been just what I wanted. If Erika wins, the illusion of the witch will be destroyed. That means the existence of the witch will be denied. Byato was fighting for her life. However, this wasn't the only time she had been fighting for her life. It had always been a life-or-death struggle, even when she fought with Battler. Because if Battler had won and destroyed the illusion of the witch in the previous games, Byato would have been destroyed. That's dirty. Erika alone has nothing to lose if she fails. I wonder. Lady Bern Castell is not a compassionate person. I can't imagine she'd give warm treatment to a piece that didn't perform to her expectations. It was inconceivable that the ruthless Bern Castell would place no blame at all on a piece who had suffered defeat. Erika was probably fighting for her life just as much. The two claims would clash, and one would be weeded out. One would fall, and would not leave this place alive. The only ones who truly had nothing to lose were those witches. Okay, no problems. Get started. In that case, I would like to go first. The murder of Hideyoshi-san is very simple. It should be impossible to suspect anyone other than Natsuhi-san. Except for the victim and Natsuhi-san, all of us were in the same room, correct? It really was simple. Except for Natsuhi, everyone had been inside the parlor. And because it was so simple, it was decisive. No matter how you look at it, the one who killed Hideyoshi was Natsuhi. No, it's the other way around. No matter how you look at it, no one except for Natsuhi could have killed Hideyoshi. There's no room for discussion or debate. I'm telling you, that's a mistake. Maybe I don't have an alibi. However, I don't believe a lack of an alibi proves that one is the culprit. We know that Natsuhi is the only one without an alibi. But wait. The scene of the murder was a closed room. It should have been impossible for anyone, including Natsuhi, to have committed the crime in that room. Except for me, since I could have done it with magic. I'll explain the closed room trick, the how-done-it, later. For the time being, I'll start with the whodunit. Because of the aforementioned, it's impossible to suspect any character except Natsuhi-san regarding the murder of Hideyoshi-san. Milady, it may be dangerous to press any further on this. I agree. It's a fact that Natsuhi was hiding in the closet of Hideyoshi's room. When it comes to repeating things in red, they'll check to see who's in the room and you'll be cornered. Probably. Lady Lambda Delta is the commander of this game. If it suits her fancy... she'll set up Natsuhi as the culprit regardless of the facts. If the typhoon passes and the police come to perform a scientific investigation, perhaps the true culprit will be identified, and the false accusations against Natsuhi will be lifted. However, in this closed-off Rokkenjima, the police will not arrive for all eternity. In other words, the real truth will not be revealed. Inside this cat box that will never be opened, false charges that everyone accepts are worth no more or less than the truth. Their aim is most likely to use the simple murder of Hideyoshi to give the impression that Natsuhi-sama is the culprit, before moving on to the first Twilight's reconstruction, which has more uncertain elements. It's not good at all to move forward with the Game Master suspecting us. We should take the initiative. Sure. Lady Lambda Delta, as you are well aware, a fair number of murders were committed during the 5th game, and we are skipping the rather lengthy chunk of time from midnight until the early morning. Skipping to Hideyoshi's murder and stepping backwards and forwards in time will only lead to confusion. It is my belief that we should follow the events chronologically and in order, though the decision is yours, of course. Objection. In the process of prosecuting the culprit, chronological order has no significance. Objection. Furudo Erika is trying to mix up the chronological sequence in order to create a false impression of the events. Well, I'm not a fan of confusing things myself. I accept Beato's claim. Erika, start with the first Twilight instead of jumping to the second. I definitely saw Erika click her tongue. I understand. So this is a way of telling Rokkenjima's tale. I was guided by Virgilia, met Beatrice, reached the peak from which you can see everything below you, and finally understood the truth of this world. This is that thing you were talking about earlier, Virgilia. Yes, that's right. Truth is very fragile in this place. As long as each side makes its own claim, different truths can exist at the same time. Yes, this really is a trial. Both sides put forth their own truths. This here truly is the brown tube trial that Virgilia once used as an analogy. Then I will follow Lady Lambda Delta's orders and start from the first crime at the first twilight. As you know, at midnight on October 4th, the first day, following a short break in the family conference, Natsuhi left on her own, saying that she was going to go to bed early. Therefore, her alibi is completely lost from that time until the next morning. The culprit is Ashurami and Natsuhi because Natsuhi is the only one without an alibi. Oh, is that so? I believe there are several people besides Natsuhi who have dubious alibis. Unless you can clear suspicion from all of them, I cannot allow you to call Natsuhi the culprit. We cannot conclude that Natsuhi is the culprit as long as there are other people without alibis. The claim has been made that Natsuhi was the only one lacking an alibi between midnight and 1 a.m. This is being used as the basis for claiming that she is the culprit. However, as long as the following possibilities exist, it is impossible to conclude that this is the case. Was the crime also possible for Battler, who was in the guest house? Was the crime also possible for Nancho, who was in the guest house? Was the crime also possible for Goda, who was in the guest house? Was the crime also possible for Kumasawa, who was in the guest house? Genji, who was in the guest house? Kraus, who was in the Genji, who was in the mansion? Kraus, who was in the mansion? Was the crime also possible for the people in the mansion besides Natsuhi? Is it possible George and the others were actually just playing dead? Is it possible that there was a way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge Erica was in? Is it possible that the crime was committed before midnight? Is it possible that the crime was committed after 3 a.m.? Is it possible that the crime was committed outside the time span of midnight to 1 a.m.? Is it possible that someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 a.m.? True. If Erica's gonna call Natsuhi suspicious so confidently, she's first gotta show that everyone else has an alibi. Right, Bird? Yes, of course. Erica will explain that perfectly. The culprit is Ashurami and Natsuhi because we will prove that everyone else has an alibi. Of course, my master. In that case, I would like to explain things in order. Let's forget about Genji's murder for now and focus on the crime in the guest house. For this case, you'd like to suspect the servants who were in the guest house, right? On that night, Goda-san and Kumasawa-san were there. Isn't that right, you two? When she turned to face the direction where those two were seated, those two wax models alone came back to life. They probably weren't even granted souls until they were allowed to speak. In that case, it would have been better if Natsuhi's soul could have disappeared as well. Natsuhi, who was in the defendant's chair, kept her soul the whole time and was constantly hanging her head, looking nervous. Goda hurried to his feet and answered Erica's question. Yes, that is correct. On that evening, I was alone in the guest house servant room. Well, look at my age. Staying up all night would be a heavy burden, so I returned to the waiting room in the guest house and went to bed right away on my own. Yes. Doesn't that mean Goda and Kumasawa have lost their alibis? Kumasawa claims that she was sleeping alone in the waiting room. Goda claims he was alone in the servant room. Neither of them should have had enough time to go to the cousin room and commit murder. Nonsense! Why would we do something like that? That's right. How could I ever kill someone? We cannot conclude that Natsuhi is the culprit after all. Was the crime also possible for Kumasawa and Goda, who were in the guest house? Natsuhi said it all. Both Kumasawa, who was sleeping alone in the waiting room, and Goda, who was alone in the servant room, are in the exact same situation as Natsuhi in her room. Both of them have lost their alibis. Have no fear. I guarantee that neither of these two are murderers. First off, following dinner, Kumasawa-san left the mansion with me and the others and went to the guest house. Entered the waiting room and slept until morning. It's the same for Goda-san. Once he finished with his job, he chatted with us in the lounge and went to sleep afterwards. Neither of them had the opportunity to commit murder. So we're finally here. I see it's time for me to stand up as well. Your turn is over already, Erika. Go summon that bodyguard you rely on so much. Bieto glanced at where Dlanor sat on the second floor audience seating. However, Dlanor just stared back with those usual expressionless eyes. Repeat it. We have absolute proof of Goda and Kumasawa's alibis. We refuse. Why give a hint to an enemy? There's no way we'd answer. Aha! Did you hear that, Lady Lambda Delta? They say they have no proof. How could they claim that Goda and Kumasawa have alibis without proof? Good point. What do you say, Burn, Erika? How can you claim that Goda and Kumasawa have alibis? Fall back, Erika. My opponent is Delano over there. A mere human like you can be no match for a witch. No. There's no need for Delano to step forward. In fact, it's precisely because a mere human will defeat a witch that the illusion of the witch will now be denied. So go ahead. Use the red and blue as much as you like. I'm ready for it. Okay? In response to Erika's challenge, Bieto smiled boldly, yet gracefully, and slowly stood up. And they glared at each other between the floor and the balcony. Goda and Kumasawa have no alibis. The two of them were in the guest house and could have reached the cousin room to commit murder at any time. Unless you can deny that possibility, you cannot treat Natsuhi as the culprit. Bieto's blue truth struck out rapidly. The curtain had finally dropped and the battle had begun. A human like Erika can't use any red. How could she turn this around without calling Delano? Though Erika cannot use it, her master, Lady Bern Castell, can. We mustn't let our guards down. Blue truth, valid. What'll you do, Bern? Will you or Delano step in instead? It is still not my turn. And it is not Lady Bern Castell's turn either. Yes, that's right. There's no need for us to show up for something like this. This is important precisely because a mere human like Furodo Erika will defeat you, Bieto. Because you'll be defeated by a human, we'll all know that the fake witch who calls herself Beatrice the Golden is nothing more than a subhuman phantom. If you really could do that, it would be totally entertaining. Very well, Erika. Let's see what you've got. Explaining it for the first person, Kumasawa-san, is extremely simple. Kumasawa-san stand. Yes. Kumasawa-san, from the time you went to bed last night to the time you were informed about the crime in the morning, did you ever leave the waiting room? No. I was sound asleep until morning. I really was. The truth is, after dinner last night I had a chat with Eva-san and she told me something very interesting. I tried that out myself. And what exactly is that? You don't mean... That's right. It's what cornered and sealed Kinzo in his study. I learned that you can create a seal by putting something between a door and the frame. Are you kidding? Did she actually do that to Kumasawa-san's waiting room? Erika was in the guest house, so there's no obstacle to her having been capable of that. After all, it was an unsettling night, and a massive amount of gold had just been discovered. Many sorts of crimes might have occurred. Where there is a detective, there will be a crime. I foresaw that some kind of crime would take place, so I used this to seal away people whose alibis might otherwise be lost. Erika held a small folded piece of brown paper high in the air. After I watched Kumasawa-san, who returned to the guest house with me, say goodnight and enter the waiting room, I used this to seal the door. Then, in the morning, when the crime was discovered and caused a big uproar, I immediately went to check Kumasawa-san's waiting room, where I confirmed that the seal was still set. Therefore, I can prove Kumasawa-san's alibi. Kumasawa has an alibi. The crime was not possible for Kumasawa. Good. A wonderful alibi, not a single gap. Kumasawa returned to the guest house with Erika, who went to the waiting room to sleep and never left her room until morning. In other words, after Kumasawa returned to the guest house, she never went to the second floor until morning. The proof Erika had shown was elevated by Bernd Castell and became red truth. This truth, which had become red, could no longer be overturned, even by Beato. In other words, in that instant, Kumasawa's perfect alibi had been absolutely guaranteed. Ho ho. Then what about Goda? Goda-san holed up in the servant room right after reaching the guest house. I sealed him up in the same way. Then, when Rosa-san returned at 1 a.m., I happened to notice her when I stepped out into the corridor. I let Goda-san, who was still in the servant room, know this. At that moment, the seal was still in place, so from the time we arrived at the guest house until 1 a.m., Goda-san never left the servant room. And afterwards, he was with me in the lounge until 3 a.m. And after 3 a.m., I was on the second floor. So I can guarantee that Goda-san didn't come up to the second floor. Erika's seal proves that Goda was holed up in the servant room until 1 a.m. And Erika has proven his alibi from then until 3 a.m. since she was passing the time in the lounge with him. And Erika has also proven that he never set foot on the second floor until the morning after. In other words, after Goda returned to the guest house, he never went up to the second floor until morning. Goda has an alibi, which means the crime was not possible for Goda. Red truth, valid. Well done, Erika. The alibi due to your seal on that door has been acknowledged by Byrne and elevated to the status of red truth. Thank you very much, my master. I am the detective. I may be human, but I can use the red truth despite that and surpass humans. So now you claim to have surpassed humans. It's 1,000 years too early for you to talk like that conceited brat. It'll be a pain to have you try anything funny, so I'll make this clear now. In fact, I should have done this in the beginning. I apologize for being so roundabout. This is the situation around the guest house at midnight. The gold was found, an emergency family meeting was called for, and Battler-san went to the mansion with their relatives. I, the three cousins, Dr. Nanjo Goda-san, and Kumasawa-san remained in the guest house. I have already explained Goda-san and Kumasawa-san's alibis. George-san, Jessica-san, and Maria-san were playing cards in the cousin room. I actually joined them for just a little bit, and I clearly witnessed that they were alive at that time. My master asks that you repeat this. Yes, I'll respond. At midnight in the guest house, George, Jessica, and Maria were alive, and in the second floor cousin room. Nanjo, Goda, and Kumasawa were on the first floor. And since there's no need to hold off on it anymore, I'll confirm that all of the victims so far are dead. George, Jessica, Maria, Rosa, and Genji really are dead. How could they be playing dead with their necks sliced open like that? No murder occurred before midnight. We guarantee that George's group is dead. It is not possible that George and the others were actually just playing dead, and it is not possible that the crime was committed before midnight. Thanks for repeating that, my master. If we hadn't made these things clear, you might have started going on about how they were already dead before I guaranteed everyone's alibis, or that they weren't actually dead at all. Unsurprisingly, Beato's side couldn't get away with the simple plan of claiming that the victims were only playing dead. But in order to overcome Goda and Kumasawa's alibis, it should have been possible to suppose that the crime occurred before those doors were sealed. However, the opponent had predicted this move perfectly. It had been shown in red that the crime did not occur before the time period covered by Erika's alibis. Got it. That's the last time the victims were confirmed to be alive. I wish you'd said that in the beginning. This means we can ignore everything that happened before midnight. To go even further, at midnight, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji were in a corridor on the second floor of the mansion. All the remaining people were at the family conference in the dining hall. Of course, at that point in time, no murder had occurred. Genji was also alive. We confirmed that those thought to be inside the mansion at midnight were indeed inside the mansion. Addendum, it has already been shown that none of them left the mansion before 1 AM, excluding Natsuhi. This isn't just something Erika observed. Well, we can't move the game forward without settling it. Very well, I'll acknowledge that red truth. Thank you very much for that red truth, my master. Since Erika had been in the guest house, it was only natural that she could explain the situation there. However, since she hadn't been in the mansion at the time, explaining the situation over there would have been extremely difficult for her. Beato would normally have attacked there with the blue truth, saying that the people in the dining hall had all agreed to keep to the same story, that someone had snuck out of the dining hall and that they might have committed murder in the guest house. However, because Byrne had instantly settled that matter with the red text, Beato had completely lost her chance to strike back. Damn it. Very troublesome. To think we would be put at such a disadvantage. This is almost the exact opposite of Richi's fights with Battler. In fact, the situation might even be worse than it was back then. At a glance, the fight between the two of them resembled our previous fights. However, there were some vital differences. The first was whether or not Beato was the Game Master. The Beato who fought alongside me was the Game Master, so she knew all the truth. That's why she was able to use the red text at will. However, the current Beato isn't the Game Master. She's just a single piece on the game board. In other words, even Beato doesn't know the truth. So you could say that Beato is now in the same position I once was. Also, though Erica may seem to be in the same position I once was, the situation for her is totally different. She's connected to the witch called Burn Castell. Even though she isn't the Game Master, she's capable of elevating Erica's statements to become Red Truth. Because of this, Erica can use the Red Truth even though she's neither a witch nor the Game Master. Beato, who's supposed to be the witch, possesses no truth nor red she can use. And yet, the detective, Erica, can use the red truth. The advantage has completely flipped over to the other side. Perhaps you could say that the current Beato is in a much worse position than I was when I fought with her. After I got used to the game, Beato stopped responding to my demands that she use the red. But in the beginning, she had responded to almost all of them, giving me quite a few hints. That's why we were able to fight on par. However, Burn Castell is different. She fully understands the rules of this game and is prepared to corner Beato without even a hint of restraint. And because of this, I knew. In the past, Beato went easy on me so that we could fight on par with each other. This has become quite an amusing fight. I see, so I must fight from the position Battler once stood in. Beato. In the past, I've insulted you and called you incompetent. I can handle much, much worse than this. It's now impossible to suspect Goda and Kumasawa. You can't win by arguing that point any longer. Yes, let's switch to a different approach. The next in line would probably be Nanjo. He was also in the guest house. Nanjo was in the lounge with Erica. However, I believe the time periods before and after that have been left open. That's right, I'll strike there. Nanjo, you were relaxing in the first floor lounge of the guest house with Erica and Goda, correct? Was the crime also possible for Nanjo, who was in the guest house? Yes, I was with Erica-san the whole time. And during what time was this? From 1 AM to 3 AM. Yes, that's right. It was the period between 1 and 3 AM. Dr. Nanjo, Goda-san, and I were relaxing in the lounge. Repeat it, my master. I'll respond. From 1 AM to 3 AM, Erica, Nanjo, and Goda spent their time in the lounge on the first floor of the guest house. Though she had flat out refused to repeat what Beato told her to, she responded to Erica's demand immediately. The red truth was starting to corner Beato. She grimaced as though in pain, but she still struck back with the blue truth. No, perhaps she really was in pain. Now that the characters apart from Natsuhi have had their alibis established, the illusion of the witch is also being denied. Beato perceived the denial of her existence as pain. Even so, you shouldn't have an alibi for the time period before and after you were in the lounge. It was possible for Nanjo to commit the crime too. That's right. I get that Nanjo was in the lounge with Erika from 1 to 3 a.m., but what about before and after that? What about that, Erika? Yes. First, the alibi for before 1 a.m. This is no problem at all. I played cards with the cousins in their room until midnight, and then went downstairs to the lounge where I met Dr. Nanjo. That's right. At midnight, I met Erika-san after she came down the stairs and spoke with her, learning that she was quite the connoisseur of the mystery genre. I realized that I had found a kindred spirit. When I went into the library to solve the epitaph's riddle, I noticed that there were several original copies of famous foreign mystery novels stored there, so I wanted to discuss them with the actual books in hand. We moved to the library and were talking the whole time, constantly until we moved to the lounge. Cramped though it was, that book storage room in the guest house was stocked well enough that it was fair to call it a small library. In it were several famous foreign mystery novels that Kinzo had once taken a liking to. Of course, they were all originals and in English, but English was no problem for either Erika or Nanjo. For this occasion, they had borrowed the key to the library one more time from Goda in the servant room. At that point, Erika checked the seal again, and of course, reset it. Damn her. Even though she keeps it sealed for anyone else to enter or leave, she alone enters and leaves whenever she wants. I see. So from midnight until 3 a.m. when you went to sleep, you were with Nanjo the whole time? That means Nanjo's alibi is the most rock solid of them all. Yes, that's it exactly. My master, repeat it. I'll respond. After midnight, Erika was with Nanjo the whole time until 3 a.m. At midnight, the crime in the cousin room still hadn't occurred. So this way, an alibi had been established for the period before the time they were in the lounge. After that, we walked out of the library and into the hallway at 1 a.m. When we did, we just happened to bump into Rosa-san as she returned. I then told Goda-san about that. I figured it was probably a servant's responsibility to welcome in a guest. Goda asked if he should bring a towel, but Rosa refused. She quickly headed up to the second floor. At this point, Erika, Goda, and Nanjo gathered together and decided to have a drink. Their alibis in the lounge up until 3 a.m. have already been proclaimed in red, so there are no problems there. Let's continue on to after 3 a.m. This is Dr. Nanjo's alibi after we split up. At 3 a.m., Batley-san returned and the people in the lounge went their separate ways. Dr. Nanjo, Batley-san, and I went up to the second floor. I then said goodnight to Dr. Nanjo. At this time, of course, I put a seal on the door to the doctor's room as well. And it went unchanged until the crime was discovered. I flew out of my room at the same time as Batley-san's scream, and checked to see that the door to Dr. Nanjo's room was still sealed. Therefore, Dr. Nanjo's alibi is perfect both before 1 a.m. and after 3 a.m. Nanjo has an alibi, meaning the crime was not possible for Nanjo. Splendid, Erika. Both your seal and your red truth are perfect. Nanjo had the alibi of being with Erika until 3 a.m. and he didn't leave his room after 3 a.m. until morning. Erica made use of the seals on the doors and was granted red truths from Burnt Castell one after another. For me, demanding that Beato repeat something had been about maneuvering and tactics, but it's totally different for Erica. For her, it's like having a trump card that can make red whenever she wants. This concludes the proof of alibis for all suspects in the guest house. Any problems? I do have a problem, and that problem is, Beato racked her brains to find some point to latch onto, but Erica's red had been ruthlessly perfect. There was no point she could take issue with. Beato kept thinking hard, trying to fault Erica on something. But her expression was so wrought with desperation that anyone could tell by looking. Beato's complaint is rejected. I can't sense any problems at all. It's totally pop, cute, and perfect. Alibis for all humans in the guest house have now been proven. Wait a sec, Erica. Are you trying to leave me out of this? Assure me a battler also should have had a chance to commit the crime. After all, I was in the same room as the victims all night. I'm not gonna let you skip past this part while ignoring me. At that time, an arrow twisted like a golden snake and hit me. It didn't pierce through me, but it slapped me hard on the cheek like a whip. Battler-sama, your right to speak has not yet been recognized. Be warned. Ow! Damn it! Yeah, I understand, Battler. And my apologies. Forgive me. Erica, you still haven't shown an alibi for Battler. Battler is the man who was sleeping alongside the victims. Shouldn't he be placed under suspicion more than anyone else? Was the crime also possible for Battler, who was in the guest house? Beato's right. You can't go skipping Battler like that. My apologies. I had completely forgotten. After Battler returned at 3 AM, you went up to the second floor with him, and I believe you also went to your own room and slept. You may have gone to the cousin room at midnight, but I don't think you went there after 3 AM. Will you now claim that you went to crawl into Battler's bed later on? Well, if you say you were looking at Battler's sleeping face all night long to confirm his alibi in the cousin room, then I'd accept it. Right? Yes, I listened to him breathing in his sleep all night long. Got a problem with that? What? I, Fruido Erica, can prove that Battler-san returned to the cousin room at 3 AM. That he went straight to bed afterwards, and that he went straight to sleep. And I can prove that until he woke up, noticed the gruesome situation the room was in, and let out a scream, nothing happened in that room. So you have no need to worry. Battler-san isn't the culprit. He is just the charming first discoverer who entered the murder scene without realizing it was one and slept until morning. That's insane. It shouldn't be possible for you to prove that with those seals you love so much. How can you prove this? That's ridiculous. At that time, I entered the room alone. Erica probably went into her room too. How can she say something like that, as though she saw the whole thing? She never said she saw it. The room Erica was assigned to, where was it located? Erica, please tell me. How can you prove so much about Battler? I'd expect no less from a true detective. My room was right next to the cousin room. There was only a single thin wall between them. You don't mean you put your ear against the wall to check what was happening in the cousin room? Yes, my ears are perfect. Right after Battler-san entered the room, I put my ear against the wall and checked to make sure nothing strange happened. You said you could prove that nothing happened until Battler let out a scream the next morning. You don't mean... Yes. I put my ear against the wall and listened in on that room until morning without sleeping a wink. Everyone was stunned into silence. She put her ear against the wall, and for the entire time until morning, she listened to what was going on in Battler's room. Just what would that have looked like? Until dawn, she had killed her breathing in a pitch-black room, clinging to the wall she shared with the cousin room, like some kind of creepy venomous spider clinging to the wall of a darkened room. Berncastel alone was grinning in triumph. Due to the progression of the game, I realized that Battler, the one who had received the head's ring, would be a key player. I was sure that Battler would be a victim of the first Twilight. Yes, so, just as my master told me to do, I put my ear against the wall until morning without a wink of sleep, checking to make sure nothing unusual happened. Erica has a photographic memory, and her hearing ability is on par with a tape recorder. It would have been impossible for him to deceive Erica's ears, either to kill George and the others, or to make those wounds on their throats. It was impossible for Battler to commit the crime. So the crime was not possible for Battler, who was in the guest house. It's an accepted power of the detective's authority. I have no choice but to acknowledge it. I'll confirm it in red. Jeremy Battler returned to the cousin room at 3 a.m. and fell asleep. After that, until the discovery of the crime, absolutely nothing out of the ordinary happened in the room. In other words, it was impossible for Battler to commit murder or damage the corpses. The red from the pair forced Beato to show an expression of considerable anguish. It was only natural. Those red truths not only guaranteed Battler's alibi, but a number of other things as well. First off, it meant the murder was impossible for anyone after 3 a.m. And since the cousins were confirmed to be alive as late as midnight, the time period of the crime automatically became between midnight and 3 a.m. That meant the alibis for all people who weren't in the guest house before 3 a.m. had also been guaranteed automatically. It is impossible for the crime to have occurred after 3 a.m. So it is not possible the crime was committed after 3 a.m. That one hurts. A lot. After midnight, Erica was in the guest house the whole time, so it should have been difficult for her to prove alibis for all of the people in the mansion. It should have been almost impossible to prove alibis for Ava and the others. But now, all she has to do is prove that they never visited the guest house between midnight and 3 a.m. And she can prove those alibis. Anyway, we'll have to construct it so that the murders were possible before 3 a.m. And we have to prove that it was possible for one of the people in the mansion to do it. The people who had been in the guest house all had alibis. The crime didn't occur before midnight. The crime couldn't have occurred after 3 a.m. In other words, there was no way for the murders to happen unless someone from the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 a.m. Is it possible that someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 a.m.? In order to protect Natsuhi, she had to establish that it was possible for someone other than Natsuhi to commit the crime. Ironically, the witch had to prove that a human had committed the crime. Still, this is getting pretty difficult. Until 3 a.m., Erica was in the lounge, and you have to pass through there to reach the second floor. In other words, she's practically like a manager for the guest house's second floor. This tactic may be a bit overused, but if it was possible for someone to go up to the second floor without Erica noticing, we should be able to prove that the crime was possible for anyone. It's probably possible for a human to climb up to a second-story window if they really wanted to. Could there possibly be a way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge Erica was in? Of course, Beato had also thought of striking back that way, and Berncastel must have thought this as well. Battler Nanjo Goda Kumasawa, we realized that the crime was impossible for all these people in the guest house. However, what about the humans in the mansion? As I have already said, and as my master has even proclaimed with the red truth, I was in the lounge on the first floor of the guest house, and to reach the second floor one must pass through the lounge. In other words, it was impossible to reach the second floor without me seeing it. And what if that wasn't impossible? For example, what if someone placed a ladder against the outer wall of the guest house and snuck in through a second-story window? There must be a way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge. That way, it would be possible to reach the crime scene without you seeing it. Beato finally struck back. Before now, she'd let Erica take total control and attack her with the red over and over. During that time, Beato's counterattacks with the blue truth had been few in number, even including this one. Of course, I knew you'd try saying that. I couldn't have my lookout in the lounge become meaningless. So first, I must prove that my lookout was perfect. First off, because of how the guest house is constructed, it's impossible to reach the second floor without me seeing it from the lounge. There are no places under cover, nor are there any physical or mental blind spots. My master, repeat it. It is impossible for someone to reach the second floor of the guest house without anyone in the lounge noticing it. Though, of course, this only refers to reaching the second floor from inside the building. Good, my master. So, next is Lady Beatrice's theory that there might be a way to reach the second floor from the outside. This really is a problem. After all, there are trees that could probably be climbed, and someone could have used a ladder. Even crawling up the rain gutter can't be ruled out as impossible. But I can't let you do that. Oh, you won't let me? And how's that? Did you stay up all night circling the guest house? No, you couldn't do that. You were in the lounge. From the lounge, you could only see a small part of the outer perimeter through the window. That's true. I couldn't prevent all methods of climbing up to the second floor from the outside. However, I was able to prevent all entry to the second floor. Prevent entry? I had already foreseen this move. How terrifying that she would be so persistent. Because of how the guest house is constructed, the windows are the only method of entry from the outside to the second floor. The locks? Not important at all. I only had to prove that none of the windows or shutters were opened even once. After I witnessed the location of the hidden gold, I returned to the guest house and immediately began severing all methods of entry to the second floor of the guest house that didn't pass through the lounge. Yes, it's exactly the same. No different from the rest. Don't tell me. You used that seal of yours on all the windows of the guest house? In that weather? Dressed like that? Well, I did with my swimsuit when I drifted here. You're insane. At a house where you were welcomed as a guest, you did something like that in the middle of the rain, even though nothing had happened yet? For a normal human, it would have been an action so suspicious as to be completely impossible. However, she is the witch's piece. In the middle of all that rain, Erica sealed all the windows from the outside to create an alibi showing that no one could have snuck into the guest house from the outside. She climbed up the wall herself and did that to all the windows on the first and second floor. No, to all things that could possibly have permitted entry. Although, after hearing that she listened to the cousin room all night long, without even sleeping a wink, this new bizarre action didn't seem quite so impossible. This had probably also looked like a venomous spider, a disgusting spider crawling over the outside guest wall during a storm. You... Just what do you... think of the Higurashi family? Is this how you repay us for welcoming you as a guest? To a detective, the Higurashi family is nothing more or less than the stage upon which the crime occurs. Before the outbreak of the crime, it was important for me to memorize the names of the characters, memorize the layout of the land, and prepare for the upcoming crime by devoting my time towards collecting and creating all possible alibis. From my perspective, detectives who don't prepare anything before the outbreak of the crime are pretty third-rate. After all, we all know that someone will die wherever we spend the night. Furthermore, at the time the crime was discovered, Erica confirmed that none of those seals had been broken. That's why Erica wasn't the first one to reach the cousin room when the corpses were found. Even without inspecting the corpses, she could be certain of several things thanks to the red truth. It was more important to check the seals and construct alibis. My master is perfect. All I did was prove everything perfectly by following my master's orders. Well done, Erica. My double, my piece. What do you think, Lambda? Doesn't this prove that Erica's lookout in the lounge contains absolute reliability as far as constructing alibis? There is no way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge. Therefore, it is not possible there was a way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge. Yeah, I acknowledge it. Erica, your seal is perfect. I'll acknowledge it in red. It was impossible to reach the second floor of the guest house without passing through the lounge. And impossible to reach it at all without Erica, who was in the lounge, knowing about it. Thank you very much, Lady Lambda Delta. So, you know what's coming next, great Lady Beatrice? Therefore, the time of the crime is limited to the single hour between midnight, when they were confirmed to be alive, and 1 a.m. when our party in the lounge started. I've already said it, but at midnight when I went down to the lounge, hit it off with Dr. Nanjo, and was engrossed by a discussion of the mystery genre in the library until 1 a.m. It's a bit embarrassing, but I grew so wrapped up in that discussion that I wouldn't have noticed if anyone had passed through the corridor during that period. Quite a regretful mistake for a detective. After doing all that maneuvering and setting up seals to guarantee a perfect alibi, she became too engrossed in a mystery discussion and left an opening? Her relaxed smile was completely shameless, the total opposite of her words. It almost seems like it's the other way around. It's enough to make you think that this was an intentional trap. To make it clear to all that only Natsuhi didn't have an alibi between midnight and 1 a.m. In other words, it paradoxically means this. The only ones who could have reached the cousin room and committed the crime are those characters who have no alibi between midnight and 1 a.m. Her eyes clearly hinted that Natsuhi was the only one who fit this description. It is only possible for the crime to have occurred between midnight and 1 a.m. So it is not possible that it was committed outside that span. It should have been a crime whose time and location were completely unknown during that long night. But because of the alibis Erica had constructed, it had been limited to the time period between midnight and 1 a.m. Erica left the cousin room at midnight. That marks the last confirmation that George and the others were alive. And after the party in the lounge started at 1 a.m., it was impossible to reach the cousin room by any method. Damn her. And from a mere human? This is quite bad. The night has been sealed up into an hour, and at this rate there won't be many suspect pieces left. Damn it, Lady Berncastel. Nicely done. Unlike Battler, I'm not an idiot. After watching this game 5 times, I've more than enough cards in my hand. Then let us continue. Let's examine the alibis of the remaining suspects, the people in the mansion. After all, we only have to worry about the single hour between midnight and 1 a.m. That shouldn't be difficult at all. Let's start with midnight. At this time, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji are in the second floor corridor, and all of the others are in the first floor dining hall. This has already been shown by my master's red. Yeah, that's right. At midnight, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji were in the corridor on the second floor of the mansion. The rest of them were in the dining hall on the first floor. And as you know, there was a mysterious knock, and a letter with the one-winged seal on it appeared. The discussion surrounding that continued on until 1 a.m. I will say it with the red truth. Of all the people in the dining hall, not one of them left the dining hall until 1 a.m. Excluding Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji, none of the people in the mansion left the mansion before 1 a.m. So it is not possible someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 a.m. That feels... I assume that means someone else, because the other three are still there. Since the possible times for the crime had been limited to between midnight and 1 a.m., the adults in the family conference, who were confirmed not to have left the mansion between midnight and 1 a.m., all had proven alibis. And how do you intend to prove that? Erika's in the guest house. Did someone prove it by using one of your favorite seals on the dining hall door? You have no convincing evidence or proof. The red truth is simply truth, and there is no need to provide evidence, proof, or room for a counter-argument. You made that rule. This overbearing red truth hadn't only given alibis to the adults in the dining hall, it also gave alibis to Shannon and Cannon, who had come to serve tea, and even guaranteed that they never left the dining hall. In other words, the only ones who didn't have proven alibis were these three, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji. No, there were only two left. If Kraus and Genji had their alibis proven, it proves that no one but Natsuhi could have been the culprit. Let's do Genji next. He is a victim, but you can't deny the possibility that he committed the crime in the cousin room and was then killed himself. And furthermore, though he was in the second floor corridor at midnight, he then returned to the servant room to transfer the phone call for Natsuhi and was completely isolated. Was the crime also possible for Genji, who was in the mansion? Which means it was possible for Genji to commit the... I'll say it in red. When Genji finished transferring the call, he immediately returned to the waiting room. That's just a cold, hard truth, without any evidence, proof, seals, or alibis. Got it? Then, at 1 a.m., there was another break in the family conference, and Rosa returned to the guest house. At that time, I'm truly thankful for your cooperation, assure me, Eva-san. Please rise. Erika-chan wasn't the only one, okay? I was also certain that something would happen that night. She's the person who taught me how to make those seals. And she helped me to check the alibis of those people under suspicion. During the break at 1 a.m., I went to Genji-san's waiting room and used the same seal as Erika-chan. In other words, if that wasn't broken, it would mean no one entered or left that room between 1 a.m. and the next morning. The murder of Genji is also limited to the span between midnight and 1 a.m. Now, Kanan-san and Kumasawa-san, please rise. Kanan rose expressionlessly and Kumasawa got to her feet timidly. In the morning, you two went to wake Genji-san because he had slept in, right? And at that time you noticed that the door was sealed, broke the seal, and opened the door, correct? Yes. I thought it was some kind of prank. I didn't think deeply about it at the time. I'm not asking for your opinions, just give us the facts. Did you break the seal and enter the room? Yes. With the red truth, I'll guarantee that Eva, Kanan, and Kumasawa's statements just now are the truth. At 1 AM, Eva sealed Genji's waiting room, and that seal was broken by Kanan and Kumasawa in the morning when the crime was discovered. This'll be a pain, so I'll add on some more. During the short break at 1 AM, the first two to leave the dining hall were Rosa and Eva. Until Eva returned, everyone in the dining hall remained there. After seeing Rosa off, Eva went to the waiting room and sealed it. Of course, she did not enter the room at all at this time. This is all information gathered from the people involved. It isn't a red truth without a basis. It's a truth due to proper reasoning constructed from testimony. Not only testimony, but the limits of scientific investigations such as collecting fingerprints were used here. After all, Kinza-san's study is a treasure vault with all kinds of chemicals. I obtained all sorts of results to create an ultimate truth, infinitely close to a red truth. This isn't a science mystery, so I'll spare you the details. As Erika swaggered around the cathedral, she arrogantly touted her scientific knowledge. She had thorough knowledge of all the chemicals in Kinza's study and had used them to conduct a scientific investigation, which had now been acknowledged and made into a red truth by Bern Castell. She didn't explain the details, but she had obtained results that were convincing even without the red truth. Collecting fingerprints with aluminium powder, component analysis of the mud under someone's shoe, and various chemical reactions from the clinging rainwater. Erika just walked into someone else's study several times and used several chemicals however she pleased, all without asking the family's permission. However, no one could fault her for this. The pieces couldn't hinder any action the detective might take for the investigation. That's the power of the detective's authority. You act like you own the place. From now on, I'll tell everyone I meet. If someone claims to be a detective, never welcome them into your house as a guest. That's probably a good idea. Giving shelter to a detective is just about the worst omen of... Giving shelter to a detective is just about the worst omen of misfortune out there. Because of this, it has been proven that it was only possible to reach Genji's waiting room and commit the crime between midnight and 1 AM. And furthermore, by Erika's investigation, it has been proven that it was impossible for Genji to reach the cousin room. It had already been made clear in red that, after transferring the phone call to Natsuhi, Genji had gone straight back to the waiting room. And because of Erika's scientific investigation, further red had been added, saying Genji never left the mansion after midnight. Because of this, it's been made clear that Genji couldn't have reached the guest house, much less the cousin room. Genji has an alibi. So the crime was not possible for Genji. Now, only Krause and Natsuhi remain. Everyone else has had their alibis proven, haven't they? Impossible. Natsuhi's mouth flapped open and shut like a suffocating goldfish. And that's an accurate analogy. Natsuhi's mind was blank and spinning out of control, and she felt as though she really would suffocate. Assure me, Natsuhi. I'll give you one last chance. Confess that all of the crimes were the work of your husband. Fool! Do I look like the kind of woman who would falsely accuse her husband? Beato, Natsuhi's denied it. I'll give you the same chance. You understand, right? Or wait, don't tell me. You aren't going to take advantage of the fact that Krause is missing to try and pull a devil's proof on me, are you? Was the crime also possible for Krause, who was in the mansion? Miyuto realized that they were rapidly approaching the end of this battle. Normally, Beato should have been able to argue against these alibis of Erika's in several ways, using the blue truth. However, all of those alibis had been accepted by Bern Castell and Lambda Delta as red truth. And Beato no longer had any room to argue. It's like those witches are distorting things so that they match with a plotline Erika's drawn up. That's right. If the Game Master, Lady Lambda Delta, accepts the truth, its authenticity will not be questioned. The world that comes after will be formed based on the final remaining truth. This happens no matter how far this final truth is from the real truth. There's no way Uncle Krause is the culprit. He's being held prisoner somewhere. But wait, we can't deny the possibility that Aunt Natsuhi was skillfully tricked into believing that during the phone call. Do you suspect Natsuhi and Krause, Battler-kun? Well... Erika's truth has been constructed in a cowardly fashion, but it is a proper truth. Though the witches did conspire with her, it has still been acknowledged as a red truth. In other words, it cannot be a fake truth built solely on lies. This means that even Erika's truth is supported by logic. The truth about Natsuhi and Crass being culprits is also very possible. Even if it's a mixture of truth and lies, it makes sense logically. It's a mixture of truth and lies that is just as valuable as truth is. Which of those two truths will you believe? That is up to you to decide. No. I'll trust Aunt Natsuhi and Uncle Crass. I realize they're in some money trouble. But even so, I don't want to believe that they're the culprits. No, I can't believe it. On this game board where the red is steadily cornering Natsuhi, how do you intend to let her escape? I don't know. However, I seriously don't want to give up. Aunt Natsuhi was just caught in a cowardly trap. Erika's reasoning has fallen for that trap completely. So whether it's intentional or she's being manipulated, Erika is aiding the true culprit. Erika has accused Aunt Natsuhi of being the culprit, but even if everyone here believes that, in fact, for that very reason, I want to be the one person who trusts Aunt Natsuhi. If everyone believes it's her, will that become the truth? If everyone accepts a lie, will that become the truth? Must an honest person be dragged up to the guillotine, all alone and taunted by liars? I don't like it. If no one else will believe in Aunt Natsuhi, then I will. The real truth isn't something that's determined when everyone accepts it. It's something you find after thoroughly investigating both possibilities. So this trial is a downright lie. This trial exists for no reason other than to set Aunt Natsuhi up as the culprit. Miyato is doing all she can to plead Natsuhi's case, right? Wrong. Miyato is trying to refute Erika's argument. She's just defending. You can't fight in this trial by simply resisting all of your opponent's claims. This is why Miyato always cornered me in the past. She isn't going to beat Erika by finding flaws in her reasoning. She has to find a different truth and show Lambda Delta, the commander of this game, that her truth is more correct than Erika's. Can anyone create a... I don't know who's saying this actually. Can anyone create a truth where Natsuhi isn't the culprit? Without violating the red truths that Lady Brent Castell has shown? No, that was definitely meant to be Virgilia. I don't know. But as long as I don't believe that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit, there's got to be a different truth. It's even okay if the culprit for the crime was a witch. That's better than having Aunt Natsuhi be framed by an incorrect truth. So no matter how much red truth you are shown... so no matter how much red truth you are shown, you won't believe that Natsuhi is the culprit, correct? Yeah. For all things, there should always be some people who believe and some who don't. No matter how much evidence is stacked up against her, someone has to believe that she's innocent. There must be several truths in the world that cannot be proven with evidence. I don't ever want to accept that something's true just because everyone says it is. How can you be sure that there's nothing on the backside of the moon if you've never seen it? Is there some reason that you have to believe it? Until you see the back of the moon with your own eyes, you can deny neither the possibility that nothing's there at all, nor the possibility that there's a thriving culture of space bunnies. You should never assume something is the truth until you actually check it. This court is a malicious thing, trying to force a single interpretation on a truth that cannot be checked. I believed there was a civilization on the backside of the moon. But that was in elementary school, and I was made fun of and laughed at. So I thought it was embarrassing to think that a civilization lived on the moon, and I threw away that belief. I'd been told by a book my mom read me that rabbits lived on the backside of the moon. So I believed that for a long, long time. But when everyone said it was wrong, I abandoned that truth without even trying to check it. Even without evidence, I abandoned the truth I believed in. And now, everyone is starting to believe that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit, even though no decisive evidence has been shown. Even without evidence, Erica's words sound reasonable, so they're probably the truth? Is that why you're throwing away your belief that Aunt Natsuhi is innocent, despite a lack of proof? If no one else will believe, then I will. I believe the real truth only appears if you look with both eyes, one denying and one affirming. No matter how much she tries to make us believe that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit, I believe she isn't. I won't abandon that belief. Understood. Then I will give you just a single red truth. I give the single bit of power to you now that you possess the will to fight in the truest sense. Power? By the name of the finite witch Virgilia. No, as the former witch Beatrice, I will grant you this red truth. Assuring me Natsuhi is not the culprit. And this section runs very long, so I think I'm about at the halfway point, and I am going to cut it here, with that bombshell dropped. And we will pick up the continuing mock trial? No, kangaroo court. Until next time, thank you for watching.